I had instant regret every time I made one more desperate attempt to fix my failing retirement. Everything I tried to do made things worse, and every new idea that I had felt like the answer I'd been waiting for, right up until the moment it became real. Then I regretted each and every one of them massively. I'm a perfect example of what not to do if you want to retire in Thailand. If there was a mistake to be made, I most definitely made it. I really don't say that lightly. I say it because I never imagined for a single second that something like this could ever happen to a guy like me. I think it's important for me to share this, because if it happened to me, then there's no reason why it couldn't happen to you too. Too many times now, I see Thailand being touted as the perfect retirement destination, how your money stretches further, and how you'll be made to feel welcome. And while some of these things are not inaccurate by themselves, many people fail to mention the other side to retirement in Thailand, because the other side is what consumed me and made me have so much regret. I had never visited Thailand before. I got to my 52nd birthday without much excitement in my life. Married, family, kids, work, mortgage, divorce, and then being in a position where the end goal of my life no longer seemed to align to how I thought it was going to be. Before divorce, I had always pictured retirement in the same way. The same house that we were living in, that we were close to paying off the mortgage on, tending the small garden when the weather allowed, going for afternoon tea with my wife and our friends, and maybe escaping the winter months to warmer climates. Divorce shattered those dreams, and I found myself feeling trapped with no ability to escape. The only thing that seemed to be on the cards now for me was working indefinitely. I didn't even see myself being able to retire by the age of 65, and that made me feel so depressed and miserable that I honestly thought that there was no point to life at all. Some people seem to just live, to just exist. I think that life, with passions and pursuit of achieving great things, is what some people could live. Yet my life, or the life of many people I know, and it's not just me, was just a constant battle trying to make enough money to be able to exist. Life's not meant to be like that, and all I could think about was coming up with something else that I could do. I wanted to reclaim my life back, and finally, and once and for all, be happy. This was in 2014 when I got divorced, and no matter what I thought about, no matter what I did, and no matter what I tried to tell myself that something would be okay, I just didn't know what it was that was going to allow me to even have a small semblance of the retirement that I thought I was going to have. I'd gone through the motions, working, raising a family, and doing what I was supposed to do, having a fantastic time with my family when times were good, yet I will admit, I wasn't doing what I wanted to do if it was just me first and foremost. I'm not complaining about my family, but I thought that I put my time in. I did put in my time. I put in so much time that all I thought about was when I could actually reclaim my own time and start living my life together with my wife. But now we were divorced, the kids went to stay with her, and I had to continue working with half as much money and big child support payments due for the next 2 years. After getting divorced, everything split down the middle. A lot of miscellaneous fees that somehow found their way to the greedy hands of solicitors, and I had the grand total of £190,000. It didn't feel like a lot for a whole life's work, and what I was earning then after paying the child support payments, I wasn't going to be left with much of anything in terms of being able to save more. The saving grace was that these payments wouldn't be due for longer than 2 years, and after that, if I really tried, I might be able to scrape together a little bit more savings. But even if I had 200 grand, what was that meant to be for? 200 grand and a house would have been okay, but I didn't own a house now since I got divorced. And then I had to start pulling myself together. It was like I was constantly fretting and worrying about what to do, always feeling sorry for myself. And I knew I had to start understanding that I needed to put things right. It was then I started investigating other possibilities for retirement that could see me having the one I expected to have. Bring on Thailand. I never considered Thailand as a possibility. Never been to Asia, never left Europe. But when you Googled alternative places for retirement on a budget, Thailand seemed to be right at the top of the list. Thailand seemed to promise the world. and many people in forums and blog posts and videos seemed to sing Thailand's praise, talking about how they had managed to have their dream retirement in Thailand, because they weren't able to do it at home. As soon as I discovered Thailand, I started discovering other countries as well that people went to. But for whatever reason, it was Thailand that appealed to me more than anywhere else. I've heard many stories where people say what attracted them to Thailand, and I think it's only right that I'm 100% honest with what attracted me to the country. Having just been divorced, being a little bit overweight myself, not the most attractive guy, but not the most ugliest either, I was attracted to the fact that somebody like me seemed to be appealing to certain people in Thailand. I completely gave up on the idea of getting married again at home. Even getting into another relationship at home was off the cards for me, because I'd seen what happened with my previous marriage, and I felt like the whole system was dead set stacked against people like me. And knowing my luck, I would have probably got married again, made it to 70, and she would have divorced me as well, and then I'd be starting all over again, not being able to retire until I'm lying on my deathbed, and those thoughts scared me. I thought Thailand rebalanced things, so that was one of the reasons that I was interested in the country. I'm not going to lie and say that the cost of living wasn't also a huge draw to me about Thailand, and listening to people talk about how they were able to survive on sometimes as little as $500 a month. The lifestyle they described for that didn't really appeal to me, but even if you spent $1,000 a month, that should give you a fantastic life. The more I thought about it, the more I think I convinced myself that Thailand could be the answer to all my problems, and as those 2 years progressed, each child support payment ticked off and the last payments needed to be made, I found myself just daydreaming at work, thinking about Thailand when I was at home in the evenings, and that got me through those 2 difficult years and into 2016. When I stopped having to make those child support payments, and I need to be very clear here that I had no problem with supporting my kids whatsoever. The problem I had was that the child support payments meant my ex didn't need to work as hard because I was supporting her as well. It was meant to only benefit my kids, but the fact it benefited her too, that really hurt. I had to pay for my kids. I'm not saying that I didn't. I know I did, but she shouldn't have got the benefits out of that. I know I'm just complaining and many people feel the same way and it's not going to be changed. So perhaps it's a warning to guys who think that by having a family, they're doing what they're meant to be doing. Yet it could turn out very badly for you, as it did for me. But that was in 2016, and I spent those previous 2 years thinking about Thailand nearly all the time. I guess I didn't really do things the way I should have, though. I didn't do a lot of research into things. I just read a few articles and then I started basing my whole thoughts that I was having about Thailand on what those articles I read were. So I guess I wasn't very well informed about the country. I did read a few blogs and forum posts. I did watch a few videos, but it didn't consume me. What consumed me was thinking about Thailand, because I'd planned my retirement my way, and I wasn't someone who necessarily liked to watch other people living retirement, because I thought that mine was going to be different anyway, so it wouldn't be a good comparison. Thinking about my own retirement, I thought would give me the most chance of success. And I guess that's probably not how things work if I think about it, but I can't go back and change it. At this point, I probably had around 200 grand, and based on the fact that it appeared that some people lived in Thailand on $500 a month, I did think I was quite close to having enough money that would last me for the rest of my life. I hadn't bought another house since getting divorced, and I didn't know much about Thailand and how the fact people say you're not meant to buy there, renting is better. I thought I would go and get my own place, and I learned that as a foreigner I couldn't and I wouldn't be able to own land in the country, but I could own a condo. I suppose it was a very fortuitous event that happened, quite literally only a few weeks after making my last child support payment, and that was when I found out I was going to be made redundant from work. All my colleagues were also going to be made redundant, and most of them were really upset and worrying about what the future was going to hold. I took being made redundant as the answer that I'd been looking for, to just pack everything up, close everything down, and leave the country, and go and seek out my perfect retirement in Thailand. I also received a £45,000 redundancy package, which I will admit helped make the decision easier. It was the thing, I think, that allowed me to stop thinking about Thailand and actually go there. I'd worked for that company for 31 years, and I think at that moment in time, that was the best thing that came from it. I now had close to £250,000, and what I thought was enough money to last me for the rest of my life in a country that was meant to be very cheap. I found out what visa I needed and got that from the embassy before setting off, and I booked myself a one-way ticket. And only a few weeks after receiving my redundancy payout, I told my kids I was leaving, and I hoped they would visit. And I flew for the first time out of Europe to Thailand, full of a huge sense of relief that I finally could retire, and excitement at the prospect of what my life could be like, and the knowledge that I made the right decision. What would instead happen would be the exact opposite of everything I hoped it would be. And instead of having the retirement that I'd always dreamed of, everything became worse for me in Thailand. And not only that, things became so bad that I didn't even see a way out. Things happened quickly, things moved fast, and I feel like I will never be in the position in my life again where I can just think about the future and what mysteries and fun it will bring. All I have to think about is just getting from day to day, understanding that I've had my go, and for me it didn't work. And the saddest part of all is, there's nothing I can do. Just like everybody else, to have another go would be amazing, but I know it's not possible and nobody can have another go. But if I did, I believe I would be in a lot better position at the end of it. So what I would say is, please heed my warning. But no one will, because no one ever does. As soon as I walked off the plane and felt the heat, I'd never felt anything like that before. And when I got off the plane and walked through the airport, immediately I felt like a fish out of water. I was terrified going through immigration. I guess I shouldn't have been, and the guy was friendly enough who stamped my passport, but my immediate feelings were like nothing I'd expected them to be. The place felt like a completely different world, let alone just a different country. And I guess how I imagined my arrival in Thailand before getting there was nothing like it actually was. And as soon as I left the airport in a taxi, I felt this immediate sense of regret rush over me, all at once, and I actually started crying in the taxi. I'm saying that to try and give you the gravity of what I was feeling when I was there. All I could think about was the time before I got divorced, and I wished that my life had continued as planned, and I wouldn't be so far out of my comfort zone. I hadn't expected to feel outside my comfort zone. I expected to feel a newfound leash on life, but those hopes were just that, hopes. Reality was a lot harder on me. I hadn't planned which part of Thailand I wanted to live in, because I thought it would be a good idea to go and look at a few areas first to see which ones I liked the most. I did book to stay in a hotel in Bangkok for a week, just so I could get my bearings. The hotel that I'd booked was in a part of the city called Sukhumvit, and when you're sitting in the back of a taxi in a huge queue of traffic, a car to the front of you, a car behind you, a car to the right, and next to you a wall on the tollway as you're approaching Sukhumvit Road, all I could think about was, why does anyone come to Thailand and say it's the best place in the world? What I'd seen so far was just a concrete jungle, spread out across the horizon, cars everywhere, stationary as opposed to moving. And when we finally got off the tollway, the sights along Sukhumvit Road were absolutely nothing like I expected them to feel like or even be like. I'd seen a few videos, but seeing it on video and actually being there in person is so different. I was really scared, and that sense of regret, though, I really tried my best to push it away, because this is the place that was going to give me the life that I couldn't have at home. I had to keep telling myself that when I was in the taxi, and I was in that taxi for nearly 2 hours, Thailand is going to give you what you can't have. Thailand can give you what you can't have at home, and have an open mind. You haven't seen anything real yet, you've just seen things outside the taxi. When I finally got to the hotel and took out my stuff from the taxi and went to check in, I felt like all eyes were looking at me. I know they weren't, but that's what it felt like. Like, what is a guy like this doing here? He doesn't belong here. He thinks he can just move to Thailand without even visiting. What does he know? After checking in and making it up to my room, I just pulled the curtains shut, had a shower, and dove under the blankets and tried to fall asleep, because that was the only thing I could do to escape reality for a second. I arrived about 3 p.m. I didn't leave the hotel until 10 a.m. the next morning. I hadn't eaten, but only drunk some water that was in the hotel. And in the morning, as bad as I was feeling about just how different and strange everything seemed to be, I did manage to pull myself together a bit to go out and get breakfast. I felt a bit more comfortable when I was actually walking on the streets, but where my hotel was located, you'd be walking down the street, and every time you'd walk past a massage shop, all the girls sitting outside would say hello, hello, and massage. And part of me wanted to look at them because I thought it was crazy how it was, but I just kept my eyes pointed dead ahead because I didn't feel comfortable. I thought I would be judged for looking. I didn't know Thailand properly. I thought the bit of research that I'd done was more than enough. I was only there to live a cheap life and interested in the girls, but I did make it somewhere for breakfast, which at least that was good. I was quite shocked with the price though. It was meant to be cheap. I guess I was right in the heart of the big tourist area, so it wouldn't be cheap like I was expecting, but at the time I didn't know that. Someone says Thailand is cheap, you think Thailand is cheap. Not certain parts of Thailand are cheap, and other parts are just as expensive as where I was from. But over that week that I had in Bangkok, all I could think about was being somewhere else. I didn't like it at all. It was way too busy, way too chaotic, and I felt so uncomfortable by being there. I didn't even go in any of the bars like I expected to, because I thought I would be judged. And I pretty much came to the decision that I should just leave Thailand and go back home because it wasn't for me. Throughout that whole week, all I felt was regret. All I felt was all the emotions that I felt after getting divorced. They'd somehow resurfaced in Thailand. They were always lying just under the surface, but I thought by going to Thailand and being there, they would be buried and I would completely forget about them. But the opposite happened, and I came very close to booking a ticket to go home. I really wish I did. I wish I had done, because I could have returned home with what I had still intact. I actually asked the receptionist at my hotel, after I'd been there for 6 days or so, right about when I was about to book the ticket home. Is there a part of Thailand that's a bit more relaxing and peaceful and not busy and hectic? For a guy who has never been before and who is meant to be here for a good retirement, is there anywhere that you could recommend? The receptionist advised that everywhere other than Bangkok is quieter. Some places are going to be busy, such as Pattaya and Phuket, but not as bad as Bangkok. And she said, "What do you like to do?" That's the thing, I don't know. When she said, "What do you like to do?" I think she was meaning, do you like beaches or mountains or countryside, or what do you like? But I didn't know, so I just said somewhere that's cheap, peaceful, yet still has a big enough expat community. She said there was a city in the north called Chiang Mai. She said many people from Bangkok like to go to Chiang Mai to relax sometimes, and also many foreigners like it there. And I did remember seeing something about that city when I was doing my small amount of research. I guess I didn't do a lot of research, because I can't even remember what I said. I took the decision then, the following day, I would go to Chiang Mai instead. If I didn't like it there, I could go somewhere else, and if I didn't like it there, then I would return home. I fully expected to be returning home, because when I arrived in Chiang Mai, while it was a little bit better than Bangkok, I still felt so out of place and uncomfortable. It didn't help that I'd arrived at the height of the burning season, something I'd never heard about, so the pollution was bad and you couldn't see all the famous mountains around anyway. I stayed in a nice hotel there, and again, a huge regret. Why didn't I just book a ticket and go home? I should have booked a ticket and gone home, but I had a week there and I might as well make the most of it. I suppose you could say that my retirement in Thailand got off to a very bad start. Nothing like I expected it to be. Really uncomfortable. Everything felt so strange and different, and I just wasn't accustomed to seeing such difference, and it made me extremely upset and full of regret. I'd been in Chiang Mai for 3 days, spending most of my time in the hotel and leaving and going for a walk around, and I was starting to feel a little bit more comfortable just being out in the open in Thailand. Around this time, I spoke to a guy who said he was an expat and had been living in Chiang Mai for a number of years. I told him about my fears, my regret, how Thailand was meant to be the answer to my problems, yet here I am, meant to be starting retirement, and all I can think about is going home. He said something very interesting. He said that when he got to Thailand, he was the exact opposite. But the thing that made me cling on to something was that he said that throughout all his time he's been in Thailand, not once has he had anything bad to him. Not once has anything negative ever happened to him. And it was because of that, it made me think that perhaps Thailand is safe and not as dangerous as I was making it out to be. He said Thailand's great and he loves it and feels very fortunate to be able to call it home. I think when I spoke to him about that, the reason I started to feel better about myself was because if I've seen someone who's actually here, on the ground, admitting to loving it, that means everything I found online before was true. There are actually people like that out there, and it did a little bit to make me feel slightly more comfortable in Thailand, now that I knew that there were other people doing it, and didn't have problems. I was expecting to have a problem every time I did something. Someone would try to trip me up or catch me out, but he told me that that was very unlikely. That made me pluck up a bit of courage. Courage that I wish I never had. I wish I had gone home. If I'd gone home, I'd have gone home intact. Distraught because I would need to work again, but still intact. But with the courage that I now had, I left the hotel in the evening for the first time in the whole 10 days I'd been in Thailand. I hadn't had a drink since I arrived in Thailand because I wanted to make sure I was always compos mentis, and I decided to go for a few drinks in the evening and have a nice meal and see what the Thailand nightlife was that I was attracted to by reading about it. When I left the hotel, I was panicking, shaking a bit, but as soon as I saw loads of other foreigners walking around without a care in the world, I pulled myself together and understood that I'm probably going to be okay. I found out where the famous nightlife street was in Chiang Mai, a place called Loi Krot Road, so I went there and saw all the bars, but it didn't seem to be as busy as Bangkok or as crazy as Bangkok, and because it was quite quiet, I felt a bit more comfortable and walked into one of the bars right at the top of the street. That was my first time speaking to girls in Thailand. These were the bar girls that I'd read about, but I didn't really understand because they didn't appear to be what I thought a bar girl was. I did find myself loosening up that night. I had a few drinks in that bar, then walked a bit further down and had a burger, and then walked even further down the street, and they had this complex of bars with a boxing ring in the middle of it, and there was a fight going on. I didn't want to watch the fight, so I just walked into one of the bars there. I had a few more drinks, and I think it was the alcohol that loosened me up, because I was chatting to a girl that I couldn't believe was chatting to me. I decided to leave though, feeling quite a lot better about my situation in Thailand. Not interested in the girls there because I felt like they were a little bit too young, but it was still fun to play pool, chat and loosen up. I left that place and looked on my phone on the map to where my hotel was, and it appeared the quickest way would be to go down a road called Kampang Din Road, make it there, turn left, walk a bit, and I'd be at my hotel. I probably was a little bit drunk already at this point, I was, but I walked, and even though it was dark, even though there weren't too many people along this road, I didn't feel uncomfortable like I thought I would, and I was starting to think that my mind was just playing tricks on me. When I arrived in Thailand, my mind was playing tricks on me, trying to tell me anything that would see me going back home, knowing that at home I would have to get another job and start work again, and I wouldn't be retired. Yet now it seemed like I'm fighting back against my mind, and I was in the best mood I'd been in ever since I arrived in Thailand. Instead of thinking about the fact I would be leaving soon, I thought I would go somewhere else for a week and then make a decision from there. As I was walking up Kampang Ding Road, not very far, I wasn't paying much attention, but I heard a hello, welcome, massage. It appeared that there was a massage shop, but I didn't go inside, although a proper massage sounded like it would be good. I continued walking and then the same again, hello, massage. This time, I took a brief look at the girls outside and was quite surprised about how beautiful one of them looked. I did continue walking though, because I still felt very uncomfortable, even though it was only a massage. When I went past the next one, and the same thing happened again, I looked again. Another beautiful girl, and I just stopped in my tracks without knowing what I was doing. It just happened, and I said okay to a massage to this girl that looked so beautiful, and she said, do I want a Thai massage or an oil massage? I didn't know, so I just said oil massage. She said it was 300 baht for this massage for an hour, and that sounded cheap, so we went into the shop, and there was nobody else in there. I think there were 3 or 4 girls working, but yeah, nobody in, and it was very unkempt, I would say, but she just led me to this room at the back, closed off with curtains, and gave me some clothes to put on, being massage clothes. She left, I put those on, and just lie down. I thought I was there for a massage. She comes back, and I have to take off my top because it's oil, so I need this massage. And she said, do you want a normal massage or a special one? I was feeling really tense, so I thought I'll have a special massage. And she said it was more expensive, so I said fine, and before I know it, it was more than a massage, and I just found myself going along with it. The problem now that I'm facing is this girl seems to be the answer to the problem I have in Thailand. Perhaps she can help me in my retirement. Perhaps she can be the answer that I've been looking for. And you might think that that's quite a ridiculous thing to think after just having a massage like that. But for whatever reason, when I was with her like that, I felt a big sense of security by having a local person able to help me. It was a really weird experience. That girl that I saw out of the corner of my eye that I thought looked really beautiful. Because I wanted a massage and she looked beautiful, I went in. And now, instead of understanding what had happened was what she did, I saw what had happened as what I needed to make me feel more comfortably in Thailand. And I thought I was very clever by thinking like this. And I made a very hasty request of her before I left. Would you like to go and have a drink with me? Yes. So I found myself walking back in the other direction. I'm going to have a few more drinks with her now, and then she goes to my place. And waking up in the morning, it's now like, and that if she agrees to, but it's now like I feel free to be able to go and explore a lot more of things, because if she would go with me, I wouldn't feel as scared or as uncomfortable anymore. So in the morning, I asked her if she would go somewhere together, and she said yes, so we went to the famous temple on the hill overlooking the city. We couldn't see the city because of the smoke at the time, but it was still fun. Just going somewhere different, into the nature with her by my side, opened up Thailand for me in a way that I just felt like I'd found my new soulmate in that moment. A 25-year-old girl from a little town in Surin province. And after we got back from that excursion, when she was going to leave, I just asked her if she would like to go somewhere else with me for a whole week, not Chiang Mai. She didn't even hesitate. She said yes. I thought she saw me exactly like I saw her, the answer to the problems that we both faced, and we could both love each other. Perhaps I was just desperate to try to make this retirement work, and I thought she would help me make the retirement work. So we left Chiang Mai after meeting each other only 2 days, to a town called Hua Hin. Everything was great as we made our way from Chiang Mai down to Hua Hin. I was feeling a lot more comfortable with myself, and also the fact that I was now with her, I thought that it would allow me to be able to get out of my shell a bit and explore Thailand without always constantly looking over my shoulder and feeling so out of place. We arrived quite late in the evening, so just stayed in the hotel I booked with plans to leave the following morning to look around. It was in the morning when she acted in a very strange way like I'd not seen her do before, even though I'd only not spent a long time with her. But she was really abrasive and not behaving like she did when I met her, saying something had happened with her family and she didn't have the money to help pay for it and she felt very bad. I thought the only thing I could do to get things back on track would be to help her out with this little bit of money. It wasn't a lot, maybe 12,000 baht. So I gave that to her and she was back to normal. As soon as I gave her that money though, I regretted it, because it moved the relationship. Hardly could even call it a relationship, given the fact that we'd only just really met each other, but it changed from how I always thought a relationship in Thailand would be. I'd just given her some money, and I really hated myself for that. But the problem was, I loved when she was the way I wanted her to be. If you've not been in a position like that, it's very difficult to understand. But I had really strong feelings for her because I felt like she helped me to feel comfortable in Thailand, like I always wanted to feel since I arrived. She helped me to stop thinking about the fact that before I met her, all I could think about was going home, and I was forcing myself to keep giving Thailand another try. She took me from the feelings to leave to the feelings of wanting to stay. And that morning, when she looked upset and angry because of a family problem, all I could think about was leaving, and if I left, I wouldn't be retired. So that's why I gave her the first amount, and it would become a huge regret, because it would be the start of the floodgates opening. But at the time, how I saw things were very different to how I see them now. At the time, that was a small price to pay for being retired. Yet now it was everything that caused me to not be able to be retired in the first place. But I didn't see it for what it was, and I really should have done, because it was so obvious. But when you're living something like this, it's not obvious. You think it's how you think it is. So after I gave her that money, and we left and walked around together and felt great, and I'm starting to actually feel like moving to Thailand without ever visiting was a good decision, because she was making everything better and how I wanted it to be. If I hadn't met her, I would have left Thailand, I'm pretty sure. Unless I met someone else, that could have also happened, but I'm sure I would have left Thailand. But I didn't, and we spent approximately a month in Hua Hin, and during that time, I thought she was the answer to my retirement. She was the answer to helping me in Thailand, and although during that month I'd probably given her an insane amount of money, perhaps as much as £5,000, every time I gave her the money I regretted it, But retirement was happening and retirement was working, and she seemed to be the solution I was looking for. I was now happy in Thailand, really happy in fact, and I asked her to get married to me because I wanted to keep what I had with her, regardless of the fact that I'm giving her so much money and I don't want to be doing that. But I can't help it because she fixed Thailand for me. I bet I was a very sorry sight. This guy, brand new to Thailand, walking around hand in hand with this incredibly beautiful Thai girl more than half his age, carrying a huge smile as I walked because I thought that by being with her, I'd unlocked the secret to making my retirement exactly like I thought it was going to be. Instead of taking a step back and thinking about things properly, all I thought about was now I was with her, my retirement was going to work. She took me to Surin to meet the family and to prepare everything. I shudder as I think about travelling up there with her from Hua Hin. I can't honestly believe I was one of those guys, but she was sat next to me in the minivan and it was incredible because I felt happy with her. When we got there, it was very different to the other parts of Thailand that I'd been to so far. A lot more rural, no foreigners around, but it was quite tranquil and she seemed to really enjoy being there. The wedding cost me around £15,000 and I was okay with that because I was showing her that I was serious about her, and I suppose I need to be honest, I wasn't really happy about spending any money at all. I hated spending that money and I regretted spending that money, but I spent it to keep the feeling that I had alive, and the feeling that I had with her is the only feeling that mattered. The thought of not being with her made me think about being back at work. It was like, this is exactly what I need to do, so I don't need to work, and so I can stay retired, so I'm going to do it. So that's why I did it. After getting married, it felt even better though, and I was expecting her to stop asking for as much money as she had before because we were now husband and wife, and it was in both our interests to spend frugally and just live. I think that was a huge miscalculation on my part there, because I looked at her like I looked at my old wife when I was married to her. Just a girl married to me who shares the same dreams as I do, with just a plan to spend as little money as possible, not work. We returned to Hua Hin after getting married. I wanted to look for somewhere to live there, still thinking I wanted to buy somewhere to live, because that's just what I thought you did. I wanted to get a home, get a car, and then spend frugally, and as soon as we got back, we started looking around at places to live. All the condos that we went to look at, I found were immediately too expensive for the size we needed. I didn't want to live in a shoebox, and while I could have afforded a condo like the one I wanted, it would have been close to everything I had, so that was well off the cards. Because I was now married, we went to look at a house, knowing that my wife could own it, but even still, this notion that Thailand was really cheap wasn't playing out in front of me the way I expected it to, and I was starting to feel really tense and uncomfortable not being able to find what I was looking for. We were still staying in a hotel at this moment because it was full steam ahead. Let's find a place to live. But everything we looked at started to make me go back into those old depressive ways that why am I even in this place? Let alone the fact that I just got married, and now why am I here? I can't even find the place I want. It was meant to be cheap. I thought for around £50,000 I would be able to get a nice detached house. Yet you could get an okay detached house for that price, but it wouldn't be anything of the sort like I was expecting. We were talking 3 times the amount for what I wanted, so I was quite upset about that. I should have thought about renting, and that would have been fine, but my wife suggested that if we went to live in her village, we could have the type of house I wanted within budget, and as soon as she said that, I told her I didn't believe her. It sounded too good to be true. But she said it wasn't. Why don't we go for a look? Only a few weeks after we got back to Hua Hin, we were heading up to her village again. This time, we weren't going to be staying with her family, we were going to be staying in a hotel so we could stay a bit longer. And we spent a few weeks really looking into everything that she said, and it did seem for around £80,000, not quite the 50, but for round about that amount of money, we could get exactly what I wanted. I was really in 2 minds though about building the house. Part of me really wanted it because it would be like my perfect house, and I would be able to live out my retirement in peace. But another part of me was so concerned about the fact that I would be wrapping up all this money in a place like this, together with my new wife. But she was very good at somehow getting me to do what she wanted me to do. I didn't realise, after I'd already paid the deposit for the builder, that we would need to buy land as well. How stupid is that? I just thought that she would have some land because she said the family owns a lot of land and we could build on that. But now I paid the deposit, which was close to the equivalent of £10,000, I found out that we needed to buy land as well. So that basically became a huge regret immediately, because £80,000 was the upper limit of what I could spend. And instead of accepting that I'd just lost £10,000 and trying to come to my senses, we bought some land from her family that was suitable for building on for £15,000, and then the construction commenced. Watching that house get built was a mix of emotions. On the one hand, I'm happy with my wife because she's everything I feel I need to make my retirement complete. Yet I'm devastated that I'm spending money for this house that I can't own or have any control over. It's like part of me is so happy, and part of me is so angry, and part of me is so sad, and part of me is also so confused. Confused that I really have no idea what I'm even doing, apart from just going along with what I've agreed to, thinking about nothing more than this is going to make my retirement better. I just wanted my retirement to be better, that was all I wanted. It didn't appear, though, that it was being made better straight away, because even though we're building a house, my wife is still asking for money from me all the time, and I'm still giving it to her. So much money is going out of my bank that I don't even know what I'm doing. It's like I can't stop myself because I feel like I've got this retirement and it's on very rocky grounds, and I need to forget about the fact I'm wasting money that can't be wasted. I just think, as soon as the house is built, we can move in, and that's it. No more spending money, so I just moved ahead with it, with the understanding that when it was built, that would be the end of me giving money to her, apart from just enough for her to live. Unfortunately, we went over budget as well with the house, about £8,000 over budget. And when I'd seen a show house that the builder had built, again, I must have been a really big idiot, but we looked around this show house. This is the house we wanted. And when it was built, and supposedly ready to move in, and we went to look at it, absolutely nothing from the show house was in there. No air conditioning, not even the same kitchen, not even the same bathroom or the same colour tiles. Stupidly, about 2 months before it was finished, we decided to leave to the beach in Hua Hin for a break while it completed. So we returned and saw this, and I was shocked. It was nothing like. I asked my wife before we had this place built if it included everything, and she said yes, so that was all I cared about. But she signed the contracts, and then apparently it said in the contract what was included, and she didn't know. It wasn't included, it was just for an empty shell of a house. Instead of things costing £80,000 for everything, it had now cost me £103,000 including the land, yet we don't even have a proper kitchen or bathroom or any furniture, and I thought all that was included in the £80,000 price. I remember standing there in that empty shell, this shocking sense of regret that why did I do this? Knowing that I'm still giving so much money to my wife, but she's helping me to make my retirement complete. It's like I was so desperate. I think it was nothing more than desperation. So desperate to have a retirement that instead of trying to have a retirement, I ruined my retirement. But it was clear I needed to spend more money, and not only that, to have everything like I wanted in the show house. It was the equivalent of £25,000. We could have spent a lot less than that, and we could have still been okay. But then, I'm trying to justify my stupidity here. If we didn't have it like it was meant to be, then I would have spent over £100,000 for absolutely nothing. That's what it would have felt like. And I've already gone over budget, and if you can't, do it the way you want to do it, what's the point? So angrily, I agreed to pay the builder to make it exactly like the showroom, another £25,000, and of course, I regretted it as soon as I paid. But I wanted it because that's what I thought I paid for. She is helping me because after I've paid this extra money, I regret the fact that my bank balance has dipped, but we go together back to the hotel and she completely blows my mind. She blows me away every single day. She tells me how much she loves me and she helps me with my retirement. I'm not knowing that she's costing me my retirement. £128,000 later, we moved into the house. A huge sense of relief came over me when we moved in, and it was finally ready. Out of the money I started with, after I'd paid for the house, the wedding, and the money I'd been giving to my wife, I probably had about £70,000 left, and that was it. But the relief of being in that house, it meant we could finally cut back on spending. And that made me feel good for the first time ever since I started building the house, really. Finally, now all this money's gone, no more is going to need to go out. And while I didn't have a lot of money, I did expect to be able to spend £600 a month, and that would have been enough for us to live a peaceful retirement, which is all I wanted to do. Cost me a lot of money, but finally I was there. Secretly though, I did really regret it. I didn't tell my wife I regretted it because she was very happy with the house as you'd expect. But when I saw that house, regardless of how good it was or how happy I felt in the house, all I saw was all that money I'd spent on it that I couldn't get back ever again. That money was there, and it could never be sold. And even if it could, it belonged to her and she wouldn't sell it. So it was like dead money that I could never get back. And that's all I saw when I looked at it. I did try to reason with myself, though, that I came to Thailand to retire. I didn't like it when I was in Bangkok by myself. I didn't like it in Chiang Mai until I met her. But when I was with her, she did make my retirement in Thailand a possibility. That's the thing that I was thinking in the early days of being with her, and going into building this house, and getting married to her even. I felt like she was what made Thailand a possibility for me, and without her, I would have had to go back home to work. The thought of having to go back home and back to work, and admitting defeat, and having to wake up early every day and commuting and following along with that, it made me feel like I hated myself. But now I was retired, and that was the only thing that mattered. What I'm trying to say is it was worth it because I was with her, although my head was full of regrets about my life at this point because it didn't go according to plan. I never told her, when we moved in, that she would need to stop asking for money. I just thought she would because she's seen that we've spent so much money on the house, but I was wrong. We had spoken about buying a car before we moved in, but I stopped talking about that as soon as I realised that I would need to buy land as well, and she stopped talking about it, and I thought it was just a common understanding that okay, we had to buy the land, so we can't buy the car. But we've moved in, and she was using, or we were both using, should I say, a really old motorcycle that the family just had, and we were using that to get about. Yet only a few days later, after we'd moved in, she said, "When are we going to look at a car?" That was the first time I told her I think we can't buy a car, we need to save money, waiting for her to say I fully understand, but she didn't. She said we'd really need a car to live here, and that was the first time I told her I was concerned about money and we need to save money. And she said she understands, but if we have a car, let's buy a pickup instead, and then we can work on something together, she said. I told her I didn't want to work because I was retired, and that's why I built this house in the first place. She said that's fine, I can just relax and stay at home, and she can work. We'll buy a pickup, and she will make some money. I said to her, "You're telling me if I buy a pickup, then from there you're not going to ask for money from me again?" She said, "Yes, I won't ask you for money again." But she said, "If I can make money." I just took note of the first bit of that, thinking that if she thinks buying a pickup means she can use that to help her make money, it's almost a guarantee. So I agreed to go and look at pickups. That same day, we were at the Toyota dealership looking at the different models that we could get. It was going to be the Toyota Hilux Vigo that she was interested in, and the one I wanted to get was the base model cheap with the manual transmission, but she said that didn't fit well with the house and we could get bad luck. What a crazy thing to say, I thought. And she said she would be really happy and everything would be a lot easier and better, and everything would be better if we could get the 4-door pickup, close to the top version, 1.1 million baht that was, around £25,000. We really needed this, she said. If we can get it, I can start my business. That's what she said, my business. And instead of doing what I should have done, I was so far invested and so deep into things that I just agreed. Instant regret when I agreed and paid the money, and when the car went into her name and we're driving it out of the showroom. Seeing how happy she is, thinking about how fantastic the rest of the day is going to be for me, yet full of regret spending that money on something for her again. But I held out a quiet amount of hope to the fact that finally that would be my last big investment, and it was now her turn to do something and start bringing in some money, because that's why we bought the pickup in the first place. She was driving when we took it back home, full of smiles, and she parks it up and we go inside and I go sit down and watch TV. She says she's going to go and see her family because she wants to show off the car. So she does that, and I just relaxed, looking forward to the evening when she comes back. When she did come back, she was really happy and excited. She said her family thought the pickup was amazing, and she said she's already thought of her new business. And I said that was great. What is it that you want to do? She said, and why weren't there any of these stories like this when I was doing these things I was doing? Or if they were, why hadn't they been available to me? Because if they were, I would have known immediately not to do this. But she said she wanted to open a restaurant. A restaurant just outside the village. There should be a lot of passing traffic, and she thinks this will be a great idea. I told her that sounds amazing, and I wanted to find out about her plans, and she started talking about everything, like she had given it some serious thought. Talked about the food she wanted to sell, drinks she wanted to sell, music she wanted to play in there, and she had some friends that wanted to work with her, and it all sounded like it was perfect and coming together in line. She didn't say anything else, but I had a fantastic evening with her, and I went to bed, finally feeling like I didn't need to spend any more money, and finally feeling like I could just relax, spend a little bit of money, and just live my retirement, because that's what I was there for. I wasn't expecting her to say what she said in the morning, though, and that was, I think, a bit of a rude wake-up call. Around 10 a.m, I was already up again watching TV. She was getting ready upstairs, and comes downstairs and says I'm going to go and look at things for the restaurant. I think it might be around 2 million baht is what I need for everything to get it set up, but I do think it should make about 60,000 a month. I wasn't expecting her to say that, but I didn't even catch on to what she meant by saying that, and as she left to go and do whatever it was she was doing, I slowly started to think, hang on, does she mean she's expecting to get 2 million baht from me to be able to do this, before she can make this 60,000 baht? I felt like I had to call her because I hadn't processed it properly, because there was nothing that would have made me think she would have expected any more money from me, knowing what I'd already said to her. And I bought this pickup, and that was meant to be it. When I called her and said, when you said you need 2 million baht, I asked her where are you going to get this 2 million baht from, noting what the answer was now that I understood what she meant, hoping though that she was going to say something else, but she didn't. She said I will need you to give this to me, and then we can start making 60,000 a month. Because you give that to me, we can share the money together. Now the big problem was, after just buying that pickup, having about £45,000 left to my name, somehow thinking that my wife was going to use this pickup for a business to make money, to now thinking she wants 2 million baht, which is basically all the money I have left, and then she can start giving money to me out of the profits. For anyone that's shaking their head, I mean I'm shaking my head as I say this, but you have to understand that I thought that she really wanted to make sure my retirement was like I wanted it to be. I'm not saying that I thought her job was to make my retirement complete, but what I am saying is that she appeared to want me to be able to live in Thailand for the rest of my life as a retiree. So I'm thinking if I give her money, it's because she's using that to make my retirement better. That's why we did the house and the pickup and everything. But now she wants me to give her 2 million baht, pretty much everything I have left, to invest in this business. And if I don't, there's not going to be any more money coming in, and the pickup will have been for nothing, and the house would have been for nothing, and everything would have been for nothing. When you get to that point in time, and everything you have done would have been for nothing, you take chances and do stupid things with what you have left, because if you don't, it's like you're already accepting what you've spent is lost. But I didn't want to accept that. I wanted just to live in that house on a small amount of money together with her. So when she got back and spoke about this business, about how it would work, I gave her all the money, keeping myself enough money in the bank to live for 6 months, and I just let her get on with it. Instant regret. I thought it would feel different than it did. As soon as I gave her that money, I felt this huge sense of panic like I'd never felt before. I was jittery, I was shaking, I was terrified of what was going to happen. I didn't think it would feel like that. I thought I would be able to take a step back and just relax and not do anything, but I'm not able to. I'm worrying and I'm panicking, and all that worry and all that panic was for good reason. I was leaving her to get on with it, and a few months have gone by and she still hasn't got this land yet. My money is as close to zero as it could be, but eventually she said she'd found some land and she's bought it, and she takes me to look at it. It did look like a good piece of land in a good location for a restaurant, and I asked her how much it was, and she said 1.8 million. 1.8 million? What do you mean? How are you going to build a restaurant and stock it and all the operating costs? And she said, yeah, I'm sorry, it will need to be a bit more money, maybe 1 million more, and we should be okay. I told her I have 114,000 baht in the bank, and that's all I have left in the world. I can't give you 1 million baht more. Every time it was meant to be the last time, and I don't have any more money. Why you not tell me, she said. Now she's raising her voice and shouting at me, and now everything seems like she's blaming me. I told you time and time again, the pickup was meant to be the last purchase. 80,000 was meant to be for the house, £80,000. Then we had the land extra, the problem with the house not having everything inside like you told me it would, the over budget that we had to spend, then the pickup, now 2 million for the restaurant. I told you that's it and there's no more, and you said okay. But there really is no more money, and I need you to start making money in the next 3 months. She looked at me and said, I can't do anything if we not have money. What I do? I cannot do thing for make money like this if not have more. And I think that was the moment when I finally admitted that my retirement was over. My life as I knew it was over. And I flashed my thoughts back to when I got to Thailand and how much I hated it and didn't want to be there. The alternative was going back home to work. I pushed on in Thailand, wanting to leave so badly, but I pushed on because I didn't want to go back to work. I met her and felt like she was the answer to my retirement. I moved fast, gave her money, and thought I was being clear with what I wanted, which was just to retire and exist and live a nice retirement. And I thought she was helping me to do that. Getting married and everything from the house to the pickup and this business that never was, everything was done thinking that she will make my retirement complete. And when everything's ready, I can just sit back and relax, and she can be the one that's bringing money in, and I didn't need a lot. But when it was clear to her that I couldn't help her with the restaurant, and I didn't have any money, it was like she'd seen a ghost. Things weren't the same again. I begged her to sell the pickup, but she wouldn't. I begged her to sell that land that she bought that was meant to have the restaurant in it, but she wouldn't. In fact, she didn't want to touch me again after that. And when it was clear that she had no intention of selling anything, and when it was clear that I didn't have enough money to try and fight to get half of everything, it was just a question of going back home, back to work. Only this time, I didn't have any money to my name. I left. I never saw her again. I can't believe I gave all my money to her, thinking she was going to help my retirement, but she didn't. She ruined it. Or did I ruin it? To finish off, I would just like to say the dream of retirement was so front and centre in my life for a very long time. Even from my early 20s, all I thought about was retirement. And when I got divorced from my first wife, that retirement felt like it had been stolen from me, and I didn't know what to do. All those years of dreaming about retirement felt like they were for nothing, and I was looking for a solution, and Thailand was meant to be the answer. Thailand was meant to be a place where my money would stretch and I could have the retirement that I felt I deserved. Not only deserved, but I needed. And as much as I hated Thailand, I tried to persevere because I didn't see retirement anywhere else. When I met her, she made me feel comfortable in Thailand. Yet if I think about it, I don't think I loved her really. She definitely didn't love me. But I loved the fact that I thought she meant that I could have this retirement that I'd always wanted, because without her, I felt like I couldn't have it. That's what I'm trying to say here. All the decisions after that were because I wanted retirement, not understanding that retirement was getting more and more difficult by every stupid decision I made. I had to return home and get back to work and understand I will never have my dream retirement. I've accepted that now, and if I'd accepted it before and just got on with working for another 5 to 10 years, which would bring us to around this moment in time today, I would probably be retired now. The difference was I wasted all my money in Thailand on a dream retirement that failed. I still had to work most of those years anyway, yet now I can't retire. It's a cruel world, and if you want to retire to Thailand, go and visit first. There's always that thought if I had just been to visit instead of telling myself that Thailand was the answer, it might have been different. I would definitely not have moved there if I'd visited first. My problem was that I was already so sure that Thailand was going to be the answer to the retirement that I needed, that I did so many stupid things to get myself into the feeling of contentment that would allow me to be in the country of Thailand in the first place. But that feeling of contentment never came, and I lost all my money trying to get there.